Alright, I have some stuff already opened, you know, consequence of, well, One Piece coming out and my Friday friend finally being back, so we high priority watched it. At least one thing didn't get opened up, and that's, of course, the Boruto DVD, which, feeling a little bit there. I'm gonna shuffle it down. Yeah, why don't we actually do that first, since I can put the DVD on the bottom. We have final set. Oh. If that is the case, that is nice in terms of keeping at it. Although I don't know if it's nice content-wise. Same underneath the slipcover, and let's open up the Blu-ray first. Before I open up the DVD, so that we can, you know, compare like for like. First of all, this is a Viz release, so region A only. They should be dubbed. I guess I'm not going to check. So here we have in the DVD version. Oh. First we have 3 inserts. And like it's pretty usual for Viz, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a little manga focused, but you know, so you normally advertising Boruto and manga, and that's a Mongo? Did I say Mongo? Boruto, manga, Naruto, manga. And then the 3 discs look like that. And if we take a look at the Blu-ray version, it should be about the same. I was going to say, it felt like there was a disc missing. So as you can see, it's pretty common. It's the same 3 inserts. Although there is a background image to this. Now, I feel like that's hair. I'm not grasping the actual shape. But the Blu-ray discs look the same. Yeah, I don't know what I'm looking at. Alrighty, now let's seal it all up. And then look at One Piece. Which is slightly bigger. Okay, so this would have been DD size. But we got One Piece Season 13, Voyage 9. As you can see, already opened. Because, you know, we high prioritized watching this. Once you get into it, you know, it looks like pretty much all of your other One Piece releases, save for... I guess I'm going to put this on the bottom of this pile, but let's keep going. Devil is a Part-Timer, Season 2, Part 2. Which I'm pretty sure I didn't get. I'm pretty sure Region A and B, English and Japanese dubs. Same underneath the slipcover, but that's okay. I never did... I was going to say I never did finish this, but I barely started it. I think I would need more momentum rewatching Season 1. And y'all know how bad I am for momentum these days. So... it's unfortunate that's maybe not going to happen. No, you know what? I think... I get the impression these images will look better even if we're seeing them through the blue. The angle just felt incomplete, I guess. Next up, my unique still makes me OP even at level 1, which is okay. That's region A and B. So a lot of audio options: English, French, German, Japanese. Well, that is not There we go. Alright. Yeah, I already looked at that, so now we're looking at the inside. It looks like a full picture, so it's going to be harder for me to remove the disc to see it, but overall, I actually kind of like this. I thought the show itself was a little simple, I guess. Not necessarily bad, but, you know, it looks kind of neat. And then last but not least, the Demon Sword Master of Excaliber Academy, which I don't remember if I finished watching this or not. I remember it had a fun enough premise and setup, but it seemed distracted from its own premise. Region A, 12 episodes on 2 discs, English and Japanese dubbing, US and Canada. Usually I don't look at that, but yeah. Anyways. You know, good straightforward release, but it's nice to have it on physical home video. Well, here's this week's physical anime collection update. Okay, this week was a bit all over the place in terms of what I watched, but let's just get to it. So first of all, One Piece Season 13 Voyage 9. It was okay. I guess, let's see. First problem to mention with this is that this had a lot more recaps than a lot of stuff that we've seen. A lot. And some of it was even recaps of stuff that had already slightly recapped. It was a little okay because it seemed to be in the spirit of kind of strengthening the building of the world it had done up to that point and giving us even more glimpses and bits and pieces of stuff, including us seeing characters that we haven't seen in a very long time interacting with other characters that we haven't seen in an even very longer time. So overall, you know, it was an interesting mix. Maybe not the greatest that One Piece has, but I guess, you know, overall it was just kind of okay having it do that. Now, that said, I was kind of focused on something else while doing it, and I don't know if I can talk about that project. But, anyways, anime watching. I did not watch the next episode of Magical Girl and the Evil Lieutenant. I think, where did my evenings go? Something about my evenings has just felt like not much energy. So I might be playing catch up this week. We'll have to see. But for that one, you know, I guess I just didn't feel in the mood to watch it. No Longer Allowed in Another World, episode 6. Since this one I keep watching every Tuesday, and that's like the longest period of time since I record these videos, it's the hardest to remember. Like, there were things in the previous episode that I hadn't remembered that are like, oh yes, they introduced that character, and some of that scenario, some of that was entertaining. This one, okay, yeah, it started introducing some of that stuff, and I don't know, it's hard to say if this is one of those cultures like the elves from that other one with the Ring King thing, where, I don't know. Yeah, the kingdom itself is not as bad, but, you know, fuck the castle and the royalty and stuff like that. Frustrating stuff. Interesting stuff moving forward. Kind of curious to see what it's going to do. It's staying interesting. Strongest Magician in the Demon Lord's Army, episode 8. Okay episode, I think. Yeah, I guess. Okay episode. Failure Frame, the next episode did not air. I Parry Everything, episode 7. I hope that's the right episode. I thought it was entertaining. There's still elements of the misunderstanding stuff that's still strong in it, but I guess this time it doesn't feel like it's as
forceful on the watcher, so that kind of makes it feel a little more heartwarming to a certain degree, I think. So it's an okay episode. Otokonoko episode, the next episode I did not watch. Basically, romance stuff requires a little more energy, and I had not as much energy. That time I got reincarnated as a slime, season 3, episode 66. That happened at the very end. What happened earlier on in it? Oh yes, okay. Some of that stuff, seeing some characters again we haven't seen in a little bit. And maybe doing some preparations for whatever they were introducing in the last proper episode before this one. So, overall, okay episode. Quality Assurance in Another World, episode 7. This show is kind of just a mix of emotions watching. And unfortunately, they're not like necessarily good emotions, but kind of, I guess this is interesting, I kind of like it, but something never feels like what I want. And I think that's a personal preference thing. But overall, yeah, an okay episode with more interesting things happened than I would have guessed. So, fun stuff. Dungeon People, episode 6. I don't know why this anime continues to just kind of be really nice to watch. But I decided to watch it, and I thought episode 6 was just entertaining as well. I don't know how to describe this show. It's just nice. I did not watch the next episode of Bye Bye Earth. I don't think that it's necessarily doing bad. I guess I just didn't feel in a playing it mood. Dolly and Bloom, episode 7. I actually thought, so I've had a lot of not really complaints, but weaknesses I felt of the last handful of episodes. I felt this episode was actually the series doing well. I thought it was a good episode. We saw our main character doing stuff. When the dad came up, it wasn't in the, oh, this is how, she, how great he was, and this anime is about how great he was. This time it was about stuff she learned from him the few times that did come up. And otherwise, it was just kind of doing entertaining stuff. There was one thing where it's just like, okay, you just suggest an idea that you thought was a groundbreaking idea, and it seems a little obvious, so why hasn't anybody done it? And this episode starts addressing it. So, I felt like this episode was a good episode. Not that the other ones were bad. Maybe they were just more okay. But yeah, this one I feel like, good episode. Did not watch the latest episode of Sakuna. Didn't watch the latest episode of Shoshimin. Elusive Samurai, episode 7. I think entertaining stuff. I feel like we only got bits and pieces of our main character interesting, but the cast is a little more filled out in a way, and it's not necessarily bad, and it's probably more interesting to see where it's going to go after this, because it did set up for the next episode. But overall, entertaining episode with cool and neat stuff in it. Plus Sized Elf, episode 7. Entertaining. The show is about the same as it's always been, so if you didn't have high expectations, they're not raising. It's just amusing, staying amusing. Why Does Nobody Remember Me in This World, episode 6. I do appreciate how the show does continue to move forward with its premise and not stay too stagnant. I almost feel like I'm afraid that it will feel stagnant at any moment. Maybe it won't actually be stagnant, it just might feel it, and that would probably be a more description of me. And like one issue I can have with this episode is it sort of felt like it's doing a similar setup to a previous episode where it's just like, well, that's convenient, so now it's doing the shonen thing where people get separated out. But it did handle it pretty well before in terms of not distracting us too much by saying, oh, now we're going to watch each of those people have an entire episode where they battle their one character so we can see, which can be neat, but at the same time, it's a big distraction from story when you want to see story. So, this show's staying good, I'd say. Let's see. Makeen, Too Many Losing Heroines, episode 6. I'm not sure what my goal watching this is, but it is definitely entertaining seeing the characters interact, and they stay pretty engaging and say pretty interesting things. And I guess just to make sure, I think that it does it a better way than Shoshimin, where Shoshimin 100% relies on that, whereas something about this is relying on something else in addition, but I'm blanking and not placing my finger on it. But overall, it's good stuff, I guess. Atri, episode 6, had some interesting plot development that I would actually say leads closer to... Well, like, one of the problems with the show is it's not immediately obvious to me what sort of story it's doing going forward. But at a minimum, it feels like it's supposed to have something. It's just hard to tell what that is, but it feels like it's showing a little bit more, but not enough for me to kind of grasp what should I make of this show overall in the end. So it's entertaining in the moment. Okay to good, somewhere in there, at least. But it is. A Journey Through Another World, Raising Kids While Adventuring, episode 8. Okay stuff, I suppose. Just entertaining, I would say. Wisteria, Wand and Sorcery, episode 6. Pretty great and spectacular, and lots of stuff happening, and it doesn't feel like it's out of steam for stuff continuing to happen, and it feels like there's some good, genuine character building emotions running amok in a good way. Yeah, overall, I found it to be a very respectable series. Osan Newbie Adventurer, episode 7. I'd say this one was pretty entertaining. I guess kind of a setup, which makes it sort of a setup for a setup. So it's kind of got a few things going on at the same time, but overall it's continuing to be entertaining. And then last but not least, we had Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf, episode 20. And it was a nice episode seeing our characters do stuff, and I didn't recognize it at all. Like, not even a glimmer of anything about this was familiar. Like, if season 2 was already not very familiar because I couldn't remember it that well, this was even more of a stranger. And there may be a good reason for that. I took a look, and you know, I found my season 2 DVDs and fired those up real quick, and I found that season 2 definitely had some stuff after the Pyrite stuff, so those would probably be the same between them. But at this point, I think it's doing something different, and I really can't. I tried to do a little bit of research to see if I could figure out what that is, but I honestly don't know. So maybe one of y'all who are more familiar with the series might be able to say, because at this point it seems like the stories have diverged. And there's a couple of possibilities that come to mind. One of those is that one of them probably strayed away from the original source material, the light novel or something, to do its own little final arc, maybe. And that seems more possible in the older series, because, you know, sometimes they do that in the older series because that's just the material they have, and then they do the new series. Another possibility is they were both in the original source material, but that one, like in the old shows, maybe deemed it not necessarily, or maybe vice versa. But it, just watching this episode 20, I sort of felt like this stuff was more relevant to the general story, which makes me wonder if it jumped a little bit. Or maybe both of them are unique, made up for the anime. I doubt that. So I'm a bit curious, and if none of y'all know, that's okay. And if y'all know but don't want to tell, that's fine too. But it is definitely interesting for people who've only ever watched the original show. If they didn't want to watch Spice and Wolf, Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf, because like, is it just going to be everything I watched in the first one? Well, so far the answer seems to be, at this point, no. They're giving us something a little bit different, as far as I can tell. Maybe I jumped around too much because I didn't want to watch the old one too much to make sure, but it's like, okay, none of these characters, none of these locations seem to be about the dialogue, characters, and locations that it's doing right now. So I think, yeah, it's doing something different. But I can't tell you how different, but entertaining. Okay. Well, where else has my energy gone? I don't think I can explain some of it. Some of it has just been I've been tired, of course. And there's a project I've been working on, but that one is a secret for somebody that might watch my videos. I don't know. So I don't want to talk about it too much. I do know that Lethal Company version 60 came out, and I think I need to make sure I'm prepared for my group playing that tomorrow. It's possible we might not, but I think I have an idea of things I would suggest people. I just probably need to do a trial run to make sure the mods we might want to use work or still work or all that stuff. And I think a lot of them will, because our stuff doesn't bother the base game too much. But I don't know, I guess I'll have to figure that out. Otherwise, do I have anything else to really comment about? I'm not sure. So we'll end this here. Y'all, have a nice week.